Hey, it's Kaufman is Alive. I look at comic books new and old. Today I'm looking at some new comics. We're heading back into the Spawn universe. I'm looking at the newest issue of The Scorched, number 44, and Spawn, number 368. I love that Spawn still has the same numbering. They've never gone back to a number one issue with the main Spawn title. They've had lots of spin-off titles, especially in more recent years, lots of spin-off titles. I was collecting a bunch of them at first. But now I'm just down to Spawn and The Scorched. These are the only two I'm collecting. I've collected every issue of The Scorched so far. Really enjoyed this book. It's the team book led by She-Spawn. They actually do make an appearance in this Spawn issue as well. There's been a big crossover going on in the Spawn line in the main series. The Hell Hath Arisen. And this is the epilogue here in this issue, as it says. I do appreciate they actually had like a title for this little mini series that's been going on in Spawn, because usually you don't really get much information from the covers. They don't really tell you what's going on in any of the books. They usually don't tell a story on the cover like classic comic books would always do. Seems like they're just kind of curating, you know, nice pieces of art for these characters, for Spawn. We got Redeemer on this cover for The Scorched. Redeemer, one of my favorite character designs in Spawn for sure. Always loved this character design. I love the cross mask there. This cover's by Thomas Nachlik with Steve Cannon, and we got John Layman doing the scripts and the plot here. It says Todd McFarlane some additional scripts here as well, so he can get his name in the credits. Steven Segovia doing the artwork. Pretty sure he's done just about every single issue of The Scorched so far. Denis Ribeiro is on colors and World Design doing the letters. It says, previously in The Scorched, a series of brutal murders alerts the Scorched team that Eddie Frank's father has returned from hell. And we see some of his handiwork here. We're in the office of Sam and Twitch. And as soon as they leave, we see a Spawn lurking in the shadows here. And it's actually She-Spawn, Redeemer, and Reaper. And there's been 3 storylines going on in this book, and they all coalesce in this issue. So I really liked the writing and how all of the storylines are all coming together in this issue, like an episode of Seinfeld or something. And in a previous issue, we learned that the Redeemer is actually the future version of the Reaper. He's an older Eddie Frank, so he's actually seen some of these things that have happened, and he wants to prove it to his younger self that it's their father who's returned. So they're able to get that information, and then they leave. But She-Spawn says she wants some answers. She doesn't understand why he doesn't just come clean about everything that happens in the future. And so we get kind of a contrived fight scene here between Redeemer and She-Spawn. He says he can't divulge what she wants, at least not now. She says wrong answer and punches him. And eventually he starts to explain that he can only see certain things in the future. He can't remember everything, which is convenient. He says some big things: Nick's taking over hell, my father's return, an eventual apocalypse. But the rest of my memory has holes, like Swiss cheese, he says. And he says it's getting worse. Then they're interrupted by Mark Rosen, the alter ego of Medieval Spawn. He says that they need to move because the killer has attacked again. So we see here's Eddie Frank's father, a demon returned from hell to get his revenge on his son who sent him there. And he says that he's just doing all this killing to draw them out and get their attention, which is a typical tactic for these demons in the Spawn comics. So we get a battle here between the Scorched and Eddie Frank's father from hell, but then he just reveals that he's been working with the Viscerator and Bishop and the female haunt here, and they're all forming a giant alliance to take down the Scorched. And so I like this aspect, that this storyline involving Eddie Frank and Their father, who's come back, has now, we find out, he's been brought back here by Viscerator, who's teaming up with all the other Scorched villains. And so we're going to get this big, giant team versus team battle, which reminds me a lot of the Spawn Kills Every Spawn miniseries, which the writer John Layman in this comic was also the writer of that series. And that reminds me a lot of what he did in that series, where he had the Scorched go up against this group of violators called the Singed. So this is pretty similar to that. So I like the direction that this comic book's taking, and a pretty good issue here from the Scorched, issue number 44. I'd say go check this one out. Then we got Spawn number 368 here. This is the epilogue to the Hell Hath Arisen storyline. We got Brett Booth doing the interiors here, with Todd McFarlane doing the script and the plot, Adelso Corona doing inks, and Tom Orchikowski doing the letters. Cale Nagu is on this cover here. So Brett Booth's artwork has been a standout on this series. He took over with issue number 350. Really cool opening splash page with all the good guys standing there. Even Ninja Spawn way in the back there, even though I don't think he showed up during this entire crossover, but making a little cameo there. And this is pretty much all the heroes gathering after they've defeated the giant monster. We see all the news reporters here reporting on this incident. So Spawn letting the team know, and everybody know that humanity now knows of their existence and the battle between heaven and hell. So things are about to change. I do like this paradigm shift that these Spawn comics seem to be taking. I don't think there's ever really been an era of Spawn where Spawn was out in the public eye, kind of like how Spider-Man is, you know, or Superman or Batman. The public knows about them, but in the Spawn comics, we've been told here that the public, for the most part, doesn't know about any of these characters. They operate in the shadows, and there's just rumors of their existence. So, which is pretty surprising after 368 issues, but hopefully they do take it in a direction, like I said, they can maybe make Spawn more of like a Spider-Man type of character, where maybe he's adored or even hated by the public and is just out in the public eye more. He's more of a popular character within his universe and not just operating in the shadows. So we get this character, the Freak. He's trying to convince Taylor, who used to be the sidekick of Gunslinger, and he just gained all these powers during this battle. And the Freak's trying to convince him to go with him. Then the Poacher shows up and convinces the Freak to leave him alone. So it's just all the heroes kind of bickering with each other throughout most of these pages. They're all just trying to figure out what they're gonna do now, basically. It's really not all that interesting stuff, and it's all kind of focused around Taylor, which I do appreciate them giving that character something to do now, and bringing him back. And Brett Booth was the artist on that Gunslinger book, so it's probably one of his characters. This looks like one of his character designs. And Spawn is warning him that he should just walk away because he's going to get killed. And that's pretty much it as far as all that goes in this storyline. We've got then we go to where the bad guys are. We've got Cogliostro here, who's now known as Sin. I do love his updated look. He looks much more like a supervillain than just some, like, you know, old man in a cloak. Now he's actually got like a Lex Luthor or Doctor Doom kind of style armor here. And he's saying now the humans know that they all exist, but they don't know which side any of them exist on. So he can use that to his advantage and convince all the humans that they're actually the good guys. And then we see one of the demons enter the room of this guy named James Trumbo, and they say it's time to pay the piper. I don't really know who this James Trumbo character is. We learn that he has some sort of connection to Malbolgia here later in this issue. But if you guys know anything about who James Trumbo is, please let me know. I even tried to Google it and found no information on him at all. So I don't know if he's a new character or a callback to a obscure Spawn comic or something. We do get a bit of a scene here with She-Spawn and Spawn, which I do like because there's a few issues back they shared a kiss and they've really never followed up on any of that. So she says she's trying to figure out what's going on with him. He's changed. As usual, he's being pretty distant and standoffish. She wants him, she says, to stop with all the bullshit denials. She says, you're fighting yourself and it's showing. And Spawn's saying, there is no we. You couldn't get near that thing. He's talking about the giant monster. None of the Spawns could get near him. Only the heroes that were not connected to hell could do anything to stop him. So he's saying, this means I'm on my own. And she's saying she's getting exhausted, trying to tell him how great he is. So she's obviously got some pretty strong feelings for him. And she says when he's done with his self-loathing, they'll be waiting for him. And we get a pretty cool, I love when Spawn like looks sad or confused like that. Reminds me of the early Spawn, Todd McFarlane comics. And he's saying that he's just getting tired, and she's explaining that there's always going to be evil and they're always going to get tired, and then they share a hug. The writing here is really not all that great, and I always think Todd McFarlane writes like he's writing like an RPG or something. Like here, for example, it says, Al stands silent, absorbing what she's saying. For nearly 20 seconds, the room is quiet. Then, it just feels like the narration from an RPG game or something. And all the dialogue and narration is kind of like that, kind of stilted. But I do like the character development here in She-Spawn, because previously she wanted nothing to do with being a Spawn, but now she's kind of resigned herself to the fact that this is their fate, being Spawns and fighting evil for the rest of their existence. So she's trying to convince Al of this. And it seems like now her motivation is more just kind of getting close to Al, maybe bringing Al into the Scorched. And so I like all of that. Man, her hair looks so cool here. I love the way Brett Booth draws that. And we get this awesome double splash page with Malbolgia bringing all these Spawn demons along with him. Brett Booth's art really just blows me away. I don't think he gets enough credit. And he's been around for probably over 30 years at this point, so doing some of his best work ever right now. So this issue, I mean, the story's really not all that interesting, and it's really just setting up stuff, so we really don't get any closure on anything. It really is just kind of an epilogue, this entire issue, as it says. So, but just great Brett Booth artwork. I recommend it just for that. There's some pretty awesome double splash pages here, just showing all of the Spawn characters, which is really fun to see. So I recommend both of these issues. I think the writing in this Scorched is a lot better than in Spawn. And I really like Steven Segovia's artwork here in the Scorched. It almost looks like animation cells, but it's more detailed than that. And I really like the colors too, and all the characters' colors, they really pop off the page. Steven Segovia he just always draws really fucking cool stuff. See, these almost look like animation cells, you know? But there's just a little bit more detail put into it, and there's these really dark inks. So yeah, these books both have really great artwork. Two pretty solid issues. I'd give the Scorched the nod on this one, though. But they're both good for different reasons. Thanks again for watching. Go read comics.